Hello, my name is Elizabeth Davies, and I am a mental health and substance abuse counselor, and I am also the author of Good Things Emotional Healing Journal Addiction. This is a workbook that offers effective strategies, interviewing questions, as well as progress inventories that all help you manage unhealthy habits and compulsive behaviors.
Nobody else knows the addictions I face here in this place. You know my fall from grace.
So now let's talk a little bit about how do we become addicted. When we participate with a substance or behavior that we find pleasurable, it activates the dopamine reward center of the brain. Our brain remembers this pleasurable feeling and wants more. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that controls movement, emotional response, and the ability to experience pleasure and pain. Natural activities such as eating, sex, and bonding all release dopamine in the brain. Substances of abuse activate the dopamine reward center of the brain and release more dopamine in the brain.
In this war on all the demons that steadfastly.
So why do we stay addicted? When something can be so devastating in our life and we can lose our job because of our substance abuse, or we can lose our home because of our gambling problem, or because of our overspending and shopping, or how is it that we can continue overeating when we're so obese we can't even afford to buy new clothes to fit us? Why is it that we continue with these substances and behaviors despite all the negative consequences they have in our life? Well, number one, denial. Denial means not looking at the evidence and the truth of what we're doing, and disconnection from being consciously aware of the choices that we are making. Why are some people able to have a drink or two and other people have a drink or two and then they can't stop drinking once they start? Well, a couple of things, specifically an inability to calm or soothe our emotions. A lot of times when we feel stressed out or when we have unhealed trauma or abuse in our life, then when we are sober and we don't have the coping skills to deal with that uncomfortable dis-ease or discomfort, we will oftentimes look for something outside of ourself to soothe or calm or medicate or distract us from our uncomfortable emotions. Another reason that we might be more prone to addiction than someone else is because we have a low self-esteem and feelings of inadequacy and a lot of negative thinking. And think about when you're sober and you have to be in a mind that is always critical and condemning and non-forgiving of the self, this is something we might want to medicate or distract ourselves from. Another reason that we become more prone or vulnerable to addiction is because of trauma, unhealed trauma and abuse. In fact, addiction is more common environmentally than it is hereditary. If one of our parents was addicted, we have about a 50% chance biologically of having an addiction ourselves. But if we come from abuse or trauma, we have about a 75% chance of now reaching for something outside of ourselves to soothe or medicate or distract us from our uncomfortable emotions. Some other things that is at the root of addictive disorders is distorted beliefs. A lot of times if we're addicted, we feel powerless, that we have control over our choices or creating the future that we want to create. And that is not true. We all have free will and we all have the ability to create the future we want based on the choices that we make. And each moment we have an opportunity to make a new and better choice for ourselves. Another important reason why we stay addicted or people become more prone to addicted is, again, like we talked about before, is inability to connect with ourselves, other people, or with our Creator. Remember that when we are under the influence of drug or alcohol or are very distracted, it is a way to disconnect from ourselves. And unless I stay connected to this person, I am not able to manage this person's choices like I can when I'm in tune. And same with our relationships, when we're using our cell phones or we're texting or we have an internet or a computer between two people. It's not me being able to just be totally present and vulnerable to connect with another human being. Another reason that we stay addicted is we give into cravings or desires. And I can admit this myself. Years ago, when I was addicted to cigarettes, about 13 years ago, I remember my daughter coming home from school. She was in elementary school at the time. And they had taught her that if you smoke cigarettes, you could die of cancer. And she said, "Mommy, please don't smoke cigarettes, you're going to die of cancer." And I remember going outside, sneaking around the side of the house just to have a cigarette. So I know what it's like to have these desires and cravings that are so strong that you make a choice that affect other people in a negative way. Another thing is believing that our addiction is a coping mechanism. And this is what causes ambivalence for us when we think about, well, we're getting all of these negative consequences from continuing with this behavior or this substance. But then the ambivalence is, if I give up my alcohol, how will I sleep at night with my insomnia problem? Or if I give up my marijuana, how am I going to manage my anxiety? Or if I give up my gambling addiction, what's going to make me feel good and give me an excitement and a thrill? So oftentimes it's that ambivalence of what am I going to gain from giving up my substance or my behavior, rather than what am I going to lose from giving up my substance or my behavior. This is what causes a lack of commitment, which is necessary in order to heal from addiction. Thank you so much for working on your recovery with me today. Until next time, my name is Elizabeth Davies.
Skyline through the glare of a setting sun, and cut from the clouds like